Welcome to the Founder's Path, a series where I'm interviewing local entrepreneurs and learning the ins and outs of their business journey. I'm here with Rui, the owner of Stretch Health Canada. Hey Rui, how's it going?
Good, good.
I just want to start off congratulating you on the tremendous growth that you've had over the last few years. You are now at, I believe, 8 locations coming on to.
Yep.
Okay, so tell us about the business. Tell us how you got started, and just walk us through those early stages of the business.
Yeah, so my journey started many years ago. Before I ever got into like stretching, I was actually doing a lot of like fitness related stuff. I was in the military actually too. I was in the Army for like 9 years as a paratrooper. So I was jumping out of airplanes and shooting guns and blowing things up. So yeah,
wow.
it was a good time. But the reason I did the military was because I was a really bad kid. I was getting into a lot of trouble with the law, and it was just like I was kind of a troublemaker. So military was sort of like a natural outlet for me to just kind of stay out of trouble. And I did that for a while, but I kind of figured out I was getting really good at doing things that required a lot of like physical and mental, adversity.
Yeah.
And so I really sort of fell in love with that. Got really obsessed with fitness during that time as
can
well.
tell.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. I've been working out for a while now, but that time in the military really taught me a lot. But it was during the military where I said, I wanted to do something to help people and give back in some way. So I actually went to Humber College. I did a firefighting program there.
Okay.
And in that firefighting program, I fell in love with it. It was really fun. It was great. And I knew that I wanted to do something physical, but I was also doing a lot of personal training, working with clients in the gym, helping them with their fitness. And there was just sort of a light bulb moment that happened. So I was kind of doing all these different things simultaneously, but I was really in love with fitness. That was really where my passion was. And I stumbled upon this stretch therapy certification by complete accident.
Yeah.
It was at a fitness conference I was doing in Toronto one year, and I was like, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen. It was just so cool. I was like able to work with people on a massage table and help stretch them out and, fix their mobility and their flexibility. So I took that course back to the gym where I was working, and I started using all my clients as guinea pigs. And it was so funny because they were like, people who I would naturally just train like my drill sergeants trained me. Like I would just beat the crap out of them, and they loved it. It was great, because I was helping them with their fitness goals. But a lot of the clients that I was training were also people who needed to move better. They lacked that sort of mobility aspect. So I started using them as guinea pigs. I started stretching them out. And it was funny because every time, I would see them again next week, for their training session, they'd be like, hey, Rui, you remember that stretch thing you did with me last week? Can we do that again this time? And I was like, yeah, sure. So it just completely took over my business as a trainer. And I just knew there was a sort of like a market for this thing. So after that, I came up with the idea of like, hey, maybe I could grow a team around me and like, let's see if this could work as a concept for like a stretch clinic where that would be the core focus of what we do. And so I went back to school again, got my registration as a massage therapist. And actually it was my fellow classmates who I asked to, hey, do you want to be part of this core team? I'm thinking about starting this stretch company. And they did, and we started, and this building was our first clinic here at Victoria Street. So, and we just kind of exploded from there. Yeah, so that was sort of like the origin story.
Cool. So peeling off that, so if you were to give advice to your younger self now, or someone who is starting off similar to where you started off that long ago, what would be advice, or what would be something that you would tell them on how to kind of get started or what to do?
I think the biggest advice I could give is like, don't overthink it, because what I find just over the years, what most people lack is not an idea of what to do. It's just the actual execution.
Yeah.
Just do it, pull the trigger. Because even if it screws up and you're wrong and like, it doesn't work out, at least you have an idea of like where you could course correct to maybe make that thing work at some point.
Yeah.
Again, it's like, we get a lot of people with like paralysis by analysis.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that, you'd be surprised how many entrepreneurs I meet who they have really strong execution skills. They're not always the brightest, but like it doesn't matter because they're not afraid to pull the trigger and they figure it out. And I think that's sort of like something I would definitely tell my younger self and or anyone else.
So go for it.
Yeah, just go for it.
Yeah.
Don't overthink, just do it and then you'll figure it out.
What's the best advice you think you've gotten? Like what's the best either like business advice, financial advice, when you were kind of getting going? What do you think the best one?
It's a good question. I think there was someone I spoke to really early on when I was starting out, and he said, there's a big difference between growth and like managed growth. And I didn't really understand what he meant at the time. And then I figured it out, because as an entrepreneur, when you're seeing a lot of success and you're growing quickly, it becomes a bit of a vanity metric, because you think, oh, cool, we're doing great. Like, just keep going, keep going. But there is such a thing as growing too fast. And there's natural growing pains that happen when you're building a business. And I found actually, like, that was that was a real thing for us. I definitely, like, probably hit the throttle a little too hard at some points, and we suffered because of it. Because if you start growing at a pace where, like, you don't have good systems and processes in place, it will manifest into angry clients, or all sorts of different problems that could have been resolved if you had just kind of taken your time.
That makes a lot of sense. Speaking of someone who's talked to you before then about this type of situation, so in the business world there, you get a lot of people who are either completely for mentors, completely against the idea of paying for some sort of mentorship and something like that. So what's your opinion on having a mentor, and then did you have one yourself throughout your business career?
I did. I would say I've probably had a handful. I don't know anyone who's reached any level of success who hasn't had a mentor, like, throughout history, like Alexander the Great to, Mike Tyson to, whoever, like, they all had mentors. I think it's sort of someone who has been there and done it, who can help guide you along that path. The whole purpose of the mentor, I think, is to just help kind of time collapse your success. Right? Because they can kind of, steer you in the right direction and make sure that, hey, like, listen, be wary of this, because, I've done that and this is what usually happens. And, I was fortunate. I did have some good mentors through my process. So, it's been helpful.
So what were things that you would say early on in your journey were you struggling with that required you to either reach out to someone or figure things out? What were the growing pains that you're talking about?
I think some of the growing pains for me personally was more around, like, figuring out, what to delegate. As an entrepreneur, like, obviously in the early stages, you wear all the hats, and you have to figure out, okay, like, I'm naturally good at this one thing, but now I need to learn sales and marketing. I need to understand, financing. I need to understand accounting, and, like, all these different facets that build the business. I didn't really have skills in any of those things. So I had to, like, the mentorship was more, I guess, to kind of figure out, okay, like, what are you good at, and what can you delegate to someone else to do that you don't like and that you're not really good at doing, and then just really focus on your strength, because that's what's really going to help move the needle for the business.
Yeah, that makes sense. So something that I feel like is a very taboo conversation with people in general, business owners, entrepreneurs, is the financial conversation, right? I think a lot of people, when they see business owners, entrepreneurs, in their brain, they think that this person is a multimillionaire and started off as like a multimillionaire. Having said that, would you say that early on, what was did you go through any financial struggle? Like, what was that like? Did you experience any sort of, any sort of financial issues starting off?
Yeah, of course. I think, what is the stat? Like, most businesses, they don't turn a profit till what, like year 5 on average or something? So, like, there's this, that's sort of expected, I think. The industry that I'm in is no different. We went through, periods where, there was financial struggle because of, costs and rents and things like that. And as you're growing, you kind of, again, you figure out how to mitigate those financial issues. But we've been fortunate because even, in the short, time that we've been open, we've been doing it pretty lean. Like, we've been able to kind of grow at the pace that we've been growing without having to really borrow much, if anything at all. So that's a good thing, and that's one thing that I'm really proud of. Even though, like, managing cash flow and finances and accounting, like, that is one of the tougher aspects for sure. Like, if you're not naturally, like, good at that, definitely hiring a good accountant to like, and a bookkeeper to help with that is big. But financial troubles happen, and it's expected in the early stages. That's part of it. But you just kind of weather through, and you grow, and then
How would you weather through that? So let's just someone comes to you and says, "Hey, Ria, I want to start up this business, but I don't have enough money for it right now, or I've been open for a year and we're going through this certain financial type struggle." How do you? whether
Yeah,
through
I
that.
mean, like there's always programs out there. I mean, like you could get a small business loan. You know, you could go through private lending. There's different ways to get money. And I think we live in a country where like access to that is easier than maybe in some other places in the world. So, you know, that's a good thing. But I think a lot of it comes down to just having a good plan. Understanding your numbers is huge. As an entrepreneur, I didn't realize that until a little bit later. But really having a good grasp of your numbers, and it's just like nothing complex. It's just like stuff that like you could write on the back of a napkin. If you understand, okay, this is my cost, you know, to provide the service, and this is my cost to service the appointment, you know, based on what I pay my therapist.
Yeah.
Okay, now from that, what is the margin? Okay, now what are my fixed costs? And like you can do this on like I said on the back of a napkin. And if you understand those fundamentals, then you can kind of figure out, okay, now how long and how many sessions or how many appointments do I need to do to build up a cash reserve in order to, you know, pay off this loan, or to kind of build up a cushion where, you know, we can take the next step and reinvest in the business or whatever. So it really just comes down to basic numbers. But again, if you're not good at that, just hire someone who is.
That's totally fair. So you've been in the business now for 9 years, correct?
I've been in this business. I've been stretching people for 11 years.
11 years.
But the business has been around for 6.
For 6 years. Okay, so over the last 6 years, are there any certain habits or routines that you've built throughout that period of time to get you to potentially where you are today?
Habits or routines? I would say really good, like, control of your calendar. Like just having good time management skills and really good control of your calendar is a good habit. I think everything else that I do in terms of like my own habits is really just, let me phrase it this way. Like I've built my company, my work, my brand around my lifestyle. You know, I put my health first. Like those habits of like, you know, eating healthy, you know, meal prepping, working out, take precedence over everything else. And it's funny how when you do those things, everything else seems to fall into place.
100%.
Yeah, you know.
I was just gonna ask, so like, how important do you think that is for someone to be successful, more of their actual like life and health wise? Like, how important do you think that is to be active and healthy in becoming a successful person?
Yeah. So I heard someone say this once. They said, "How you do one thing is how you do everything." When I first heard that, it kind of irked me because I was like, "That's bull crap. That's not true. Like, you know, you could still be successful if you don't, you know, exercise or whatever." But no, I think there's actually, like, now when I look back, I was like, no, I think there is some truth to that. And how you do one thing is how you do everything. And so like having, you know, sort of like moral direction in one thing, it's going to carry over into all facets of your life, even subconsciously. You might not even realize it. And I think that's the missing piece. That was, you know, that was it for me. So yeah.
Is there one thing you think that is crucial for you now that once you learn that, like, do you think there's something that you will always continue to do because it translates into your business?
I think personal health and fitness. I can't, like, and maybe I'm biased, I don't know. But like, I really do believe that does carry over into everything you do. And here's an example. If I were to walk into a room and maybe I have this big pitch and I'm trying to sell something to like a group of, you know, CEOs or something like that. If I walk into that room and I present myself as a walking billboard of discipline because they can see this guy takes care of his body, you know, and his health, that's going to have a way different outcome than if I walk into that room looking completely out of shape, undisciplined. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
So there is something to be said about that. I think, you know, humans are highly intuitive creatures, and we can, you know, sniff out bullshit, but we're also, you know, we look at things like that and we admire it. And I think that's something that, it carries over into all facets of your life and how people perceive you too. Yeah.
So I know your calendar is probably very, it fluctuates often, I imagine, as any business owner. But what would you say like the average day in the life of Rui looks like on a regular? Let's say you're not in the clinic for 12 hours. Like, what is your average day?
So an average, and it's funny because it's changed so much over the years. Like, it really has evolved. And in the beginning, it was just a lot of like, it was the Rui show. It was me treating clients all day, every day, all the time. And then you learn to kind of clone yourself, and you have people helping you, and then you start delegating, you know, sessions to them so that I can work more on the business rather than in the business. And so now, today, my calendar, like a regular day would be, you know, getting up in the morning, you know, having my protein smoothie, And then probably doing some sessions at the clients or with clients at the clinic. I still do see some clients. And then sprinkled out throughout in between would be just a lot of meetings. So it would be meetings with my administrator going over metrics. So looking at our numbers, keeping a finger on the pulse, I would say, for the business, just making sure everything is looking good, our conversions, our revenue, appointments, all of that stuff. And then other meetings with my franchise owners now. So talking to them, making sure that, is there anything we need to troubleshoot specifically? Sometimes I'm their tech support, sometimes I'm their moral support. I'm there for, what they need. So it's a little bit of that. And then, hanging out with my kids. I'm a dad of, 2. So, just spending time with them sometimes. And then at some point, usually late in the evening when my day's finally done, I'll find time to, lift some heavy weights in my gym and just, and then I'll go to bed.
Sounds like a pretty simple.
It's a boring life, but it's a simple life, yeah.
But it's what makes you happy, I'm sure.
Yeah,
right?
I love it.
With the family, everything like that.
Of course, yeah.
Could you? So again, you're growing a lot, which is amazing. So now you have your 4 personal clinics, 4 franchise clinics.
Right.
Could you remember or describe like a pivotal moment in your journey so far that got you to where you are today? Was there something significant that might have happened? One little thing that kind of changed the course of the journey?
There was a pivotal moment. It wasn't during my time as a business owner, though. I would say there was a few. There was a pivotal moment where, I was getting into trouble.
Yeah.
And, you have these sort of out-of-body experiences when you find yourself in a courtroom staring at a judge and like, if I don't change something, like I'm going to head down a really bad path. And so that was a pivotal moment, I would say. Another pivotal moment in business, a big one that was obvious and actually somewhat recent, was when I figured out that I can't do this alone. I was trying to grow the company and, own and operate all of these clinics that I would personally manage. And I reached this ceiling really quick and I realized I can't do this by myself. I was spreading myself way too thin.
Yeah.
And so you realize as a business owner, if you're that diluted, you're not going to be, you're not going to be useful to the company. So that's when I knew, I was like, hey, maybe it's time to pull the trigger on this franchising thing.
Yeah.
And so that's what we did. And we opened up our first one actually just late last year. It was around October, November of 2024. And that was sort of a big light bulb moment for me because for the first time ever, I had given this business to someone else.
Yeah.
Which is a scary thing as an entrepreneur because you realize, hey, you've built, a reputation and a brand. We have hundreds of 5-star Google reviews.
Yeah.
Someone could easily tarnish this.
Yeah.
And so there was a process that we followed. We did a rigorous interview process. We made sure, this person checked all the boxes. And it's funny because the other big light bulb moment that I needed to see as proof to know that this system could work was just how quickly she grew. Because in the first 3 months that she was open, this is our first franchise owner. Yeah. She was hitting revenue numbers that took me an entire year to hit. Wow. She did it in 3 months.
Yeah.
So all of these systems and processes that we've built, like, we built out an operational playbook.
Yeah.
Like, here's how to run the business.
Yeah.
Do this, and you'll be fine. And she's been crushing it. So
that's amazing.
Yeah.
So I kind of want to take a step back to, again, because this is a very journey type interview. So you talked a lot about when you were younger, how you were getting in trouble. What's one thing, like, forget about business owners for now, just forget about like entrepreneurs. For someone who's really young, someone who's 15 years old, 14 years old, who's young, who is maybe going towards a path that is not favorable, right? What would be something that you would say to that person?
Oof.
I know it's like a loaded question.
It's a loaded question, and I think I'm looking at, I'm looking back at myself. Like, what would I have told myself? I don't know if there's anything that I could have told myself that would have, steered me in another direction. And here's the thing. I'm not even sure I would want to change it or have it, because that sort of, that path that I was on it got me to a point where, it eventually got me on the path that I needed to go on. Yeah. Which was like, again, joining the military and, trying to start a new life and a better life.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I think when you look at a younger generation and, what they're doing, how they're spending their time, I would say, probably spend less time on social media.
Yeah.
You know,
It's always a good one.
yeah.
Unless you're watching this interview, then obviously
Yes,
stay on
yes.
stay on the interview.
Watch
but-
the interview. No,
Yeah.
but like, you know, there's a lot of crap on there that just
Yeah.
probably, you know, it's sort of, you know, twisting your mind in ways you don't even realize. So
Yeah.
I would say definitely, yeah, less time on social media, more time with like loved ones. And I think if I could maybe talk to my younger self, I would also tell them to, you know, try to do something like, I'm thinking even just like maybe a martial art or a sport or
Yeah.
something to just like have that outlet where I could do something physical,
Yeah.
and so that I'm not, you know, doing, you know, it in a bad way, like, you know,
It also helps teach discipline a little bit.
100%. And
for
I think
sure.
maybe if I had that, I would have been more of a, you know, a straight arrow, but I don't
Yeah.
know. Yeah.
That's fair. So speaking of social media versus not being on social media, what's a book that you think someone could read if they're kind of like in their early stages of being an entrepreneur, and also, you know, a little bit more on the advanced side? What's a book that you think people can
I would
read?
the one that comes to mind right away is The E-Myth. Yeah,
Yeah.
that book was pretty powerful, and the premise is so simple. It's
Yeah.
like whatever you're doing, whatever you're good at, that thing doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be good at running the business of that thing.
Yeah.
Example, I could be the world's best, you know, barber.
Yeah.
That's great. It doesn't translate to your skills and how to like own and manage and run a good barbershop. Like it
Yeah.
has nothing to do with it. And I think a lot of entrepreneurs have this misconception because they get into an industry, you know, and it could be anything, you know, it could be chiropractic, physiotherapy, you know, cutting hair, anything. And you're really good at that thing,
Yeah.
you know, people start telling you, oh, you should open up your own place, you should do your own thing, not realizing it's a completely different skill set. So yeah, E-Myth is
is a
huge.
great
Yeah,
one.
it's a good one.
Yeah. So we have a closing tradition in these interviews where you don't know who we're interviewing next, but I would want you to ask a question that they will then answer in the next episode. So is there a question that you can think of where you'd want to leave for the next guest?
Can I do two, or is it just one?
No, absolutely you can do, because
Okay.
you're the first one. I'll let
Okay.
you do two.
Let me do two. Okay. First one would be, what did you have for breakfast this morning? If you're
Okay.
gonna ask them that. And then the second one, we'll make it business related. If they could wave a magic wand and fix any facet of their business, what would it be and why?
It's a great question.
Yeah.
What would be something that you would magically fix?
Staffing.
Staffing?
Yeah, right away.
More staffing?
I would say, yeah, like just having more selection of like qualified, you know,
Cool.
staff like that for sure would
Yeah.
fix a lot of our issues. I think staffing has been definitely tough, and not just in our industry. I think across the board, a lot of
Yeah,
clinicians have been
absolutely.
struggling finding staff. So
Yeah.
that would be right now the one that I would like
Yeah.
wave the wand.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Ray. Really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Again, Rui Stretch Health Canada. There's a reason why they have hundreds of Google reviews that are at 5-star, like you said. So definitely check them out. And then, we'll see you in the next episode.